Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you here today. And after all the horror stories we heard at the ceremony about Russian atrocities in Ukraine, I'm happy to be able to tell you and to show you that Putin and his gang are not the only Russia. There is another Russia, a Russia that wants to be free, to be democratic, and to be part of the civilized world. And I believe that this is the future of my country. On February 27 this year, a great champion of democracy was murdered in front of the Kremlin. The symbolism of the time and place of his assassination would not have been lost on my friend Boris Nemtsov, who understood as well as anyone the hateful and violent forces that have been unleashed in Vladimir Putin's Russia in recent years. Nor was Boris surprised that this hatred and violence had again spilled over the Russian border. He was working on an in-depth report on Russian soldiers in Ukraine at the time of his murder. In a way, Boris was a Russian soldier too, a patriotic hero who believed passionately in all of the things Putin has worked so hard to destroy. Boris was fighting a war to save democracy in Russia. Every war has its front lines, where only the bravest of the brave volunteer to fight. Boris was one of those rare knights of freedom who, knowing full well the dangers and the odds against him, battled every day as if he were invincible. By so doing, he inspired many more to believe in this fight and to have courage, the courage to join him. The tens of thousands of marchers who filled the streets of Moscow to honor him, and the flowers that the police still rushed to sweep away from the bridge where he was killed, are testimony to the power and the truth of Boris' leadership and vision. A successful mayor in Nizhny Novgorod, a capable cabinet member, a parliamentarian, Boris Nemtsov could have led a comfortable life in the power vertical as a token liberal voice. But Boris was unqualified to work for the Putin's regime because he had principles and could not bear to watch our country descend back into the totalitarian depths. And so Boris launched his big body, big voice, and big heart into the uphill battle to keep democracy alive in Russia. He was devoted to documenting the crimes and corruption of Putin and his cronies, hoping they would one day face a justice that seemed further away all the time. He tackled the tyrant's greatest crimes directly and was never content to nibble at the edges. Boris and I began to argue after Putin returned as president in 2012. To me, it signaled the end of any realistic hopes that there could be a peaceful political solution to regime change in Russia. But Boris was always optimistic. He would tell me that I was too hasty. And he would say, "Gary, you have to live a long time to see a change in Russia." Boris will never see that change. But if we are to honor his memory and his ultimate sacrifice, we must fight as hard as he did to make sure that change does come. As you have already heard today, Ronald Reagan had said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. I guess Reagan did not mean it so literally, but it is also true that freedom can become extinct when a generation of freedom fighters like Boris Nemtsov are killed, jailed, and exiled. How can our fight find new blood when so much old blood is being openly spilled? Reagan said freedom is not inherited. It must always be fought for. With us here today, we have one bright exception. Boris' eldest daughter, Zhanna, who has clearly inherited much of her father's courage and leadership in the face of this terrible tragedy. In our darkest hour, Boris Nemtsov was our brightest light. Now he is gone, and we must carry on his work by keeping the torch of freedom ablaze. Each of us must contribute our voices, our actions, our truths, and our light until the dark forces of dictatorship no longer have shadows in which to hide. And now, join me in watching the video tribute to Boris Nemtsov. And now let's offer a very warm welcome to Zhanna Nemtsova, who is here to receive a Freedom Award on behalf of her father.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this evening. And first of all, I would like to thank Garry Kasparov for his speech in memory of my father. And on behalf of my family and many Russians who took part in the March of Grief in Moscow on the 1st of March, and in other cities and outside Russia, I would like to thank you for the award. My father's lifetime achievement was his fight for freedom, political, economical, and creative. It was his top priority, and he remained true to his principles, no matter what posts he occupied, how hard it was, and what sacrifices it required. And his bravery and devotion led to the tragedy. Those who think that my father's killing could stop the opposition activities in Russia, aiming at building a prosperous and free state, are wrong. And today, I would like to make a formal announcement that I, together with my father's supporters and friends, have decided to set up a Nemtsov's Foundation for Free Russia. And it was my father's dream. Its mission is to continue all those activities to which my father devoted his life, and I will make every effort that the opposition accomplish the important goals that my father set. Today is a holiday in Russia, the Independence Day, and President Putin awarded Russian cultural figures, and he said that those who would try to decode Russia would fail because the patriotic spirit is so firm and strong in my country. But in his opinion, patriotism means support and love for Putin and his actions that lead to poverty, isolation, and the atmosphere of hatred and insecurity. Those who struggle against this regime today are real patriots. They're extremely brave, like my father was. And Ilya Yashin, my father's long-time supporter and a close friend, is one of those people, and I'm happy that he is here today, Ilya. He presented my father's report, and he put all his efforts to finish the report on the war in Ukraine. And I'm absolutely sure that Russia will one day become a free and prosperous country without Putin. And if it means decoding, then we are on the right path. Thank you.